Hey, welcome. Mark Schultz here, and we're here at MRO Americas 2022, and I'm at the Embraer booth, and I have the opportunity to be able to have a conversation with Frank Stevens. And Frank, could you just tell those people that are watching that maybe don't know who you are and what you do, could you just tell people who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So my name is Frank Stevens. I'm the Vice President of Global MRO Centers for Embraer. I have a unique seat inside Embraer. I get to oversee the network of executive, commercial, and defense MROs that we have around the globe. It's a great seat to see what's going on in the industry and collectively organizing our thoughts to support all three sectors.
And one of the things I really enjoy about Embraer is that they're really growing and they're dynamically increasing their presence and doing a lot of amazing things in the industry. And so hang tight for a few minutes as Frank and I are going to talk about what some of those new things are that they're doing in the industry. But I'm going to start out by just saying, Frank, what kind of challenges are you seeing in the industry today that are making it difficult for operators really to operate aircraft today?
Yeah, so the biggest issue that we have today, and I think everybody's experiencing, is the manpower. As maintenance technicians have a real good opportunity in their careers to move around the industry, take on different skill sets, and engage themselves in different manners that they have in the past. So we're seeing those people move around. We call it the Great Resignation, but I call it the Great Reshuffle.
The reshuffle.
Yeah, because people are moving around, yeah. And I know from my years of being a technician, I was dedicated to a company. I really put myself into that company. And now people are saying, where do I want to go and how do I want to set my skill set? So I think that's the biggest challenge, is how do we retain and attract new talent? And Embraer is taking a really big effort into that and focusing on schooling and putting ourselves out there in younger and younger schooling. This year we announced through our foundation an advancement of monetary support to several different universities, high schools, and other technical schools. And we're really excited that's going to go out there so we can put the seed of aviation in people at a young age and try to prevent the absence of the people in the industry. So I think that's the biggest thing that we're focused on right now.
Yeah, I think between labor and the challenge and having the right skill set, you have to balance that. And so how do you balance that when you're going out and trying to raise up people out of like universities and technical schools, balanced with the experience that you have of people in the industry? So when you don't have that skill set, on the line, I mean, how do you balance that, Frank?
Yeah, so the way you balance it is you make sure that you retain the really good talent, the really good years that you have. And there's a multitude of different ways making people's lives better. The different generations that are out there today really want to have a work-life balance. They don't want to dedicate all their time to work, and they don't want to spend all their time at home. They want to have that balance. So what we do is we take that talent that's got 12, 15, 20 years and really keep that retention going, because they're going to teach the next generation of maintenance people on how to do their jobs so they can progress into that. I always say that there's two things out there. There's technicians and mechanics. The mechanic is the person who goes in and just changes a component. A technician is the person that studies the system, really understands what's going on, and changes the right component the first time. So we need to have that mixture of mechanics and technicians in order to make our airplanes flow and have the right technical skill set. So start at the top, make sure you have the right retention, and then you attract the younger generation.
Yeah, and having that technical understanding is so important because it's so costly when you have, no fault founds and no trouble founds from components coming on and off the airplane, and so I think really, putting a focus on that as a technician really makes really good sense.
Yeah, and we have a really good system now that we have a lot of data. We used to talk about FOQA, now we talk about MOQA. Now we're talking about MRO data to be able to look at that and say, how many times have we changed this component and how many times does that component come back no fault found? So we can really look at it and say, that's probably not the best component to change because it's going to come back no fault found. Look at something different in the system. Utilize the skill set that you have and the people around you in order to make a good determination on what's wrong with the airplane.
Yeah, sounds like a really good balance. And I'm really glad to see that you're reaching out to technical universities and things like that. It's always been a passion of mine, having gone to A&P school myself at a young age. I always feel like I never really knew what the opportunities were for me when I came out of school. It seemed like a struggle. And so I think when OEMs, manufacturers, are taking the time to reach out and to help people to understand what those opportunities are and bring them into a place where they can provide you with quality talent, I just think that's a really valuable contribution to the industry. Really.
Yeah, it's really wonderful as a professional in the industry to go back to a school and tell somebody this is what it's really like out there. And I think it gains a lot of respect for the industry when somebody like yourself have come up from the bottom and worked your way, working nights, working greasy shifts, working days, and coming in and saying, this is what you can do in your career. Aviation is not just maintenance. Aviation is quality assurance, it's quality control, it's engineering. There are so many paths that take you on through above wing and below wing.
Yeah, really, there is. Hey, let's kind of switch the conversation a little bit. So, skills and labor, that's a place that's really a challenge now. What other areas in the industry are really growing or maybe are creating challenges, for your operation today?
Yeah, so I think everybody can agree that supply chain is a huge issue that we're challenged with today. We've had conversations with tire manufacturers and they just don't have the rubber to make the tire, let alone be able to put that tire wheel assembly together again in order to get it out there in fleet. And I think that's a real good example of basic supply chain issues. We talked about the conflicts around the weather causing titanium issues, but it's just that COVID has really shown us kind of the cracks in our supply chain, and it's really expanded those cracks out to show us what it is that we're missing in the supply chain. So I think that's really one of our biggest issues is getting supply chain. And as a manufacturer, we see that every single day because we're part of that process, right? The other things that we see that really causing us challenges are the fact that airplanes are coming back into service a lot faster right now. And again, having a unique seat in the organization, being able to see executive, commercial, and defense, I get a broad view of why airplanes are coming back in service or why they're being maintained more and flight hours and flight cycles are being utilized much more often. We see our commercial customers really wanting to bring those airplanes back in, but now we're also seeing a shortage of pilots causing an issue of airplanes being parked and kind of put back into storage. While fuel prices start to climb back up, you're seeing less efficient aircraft being put back away and more efficient aircraft like our E2 product being brought into the market. So these three things we're seeing as major challenges, whether it's the MRO side or whether it's the airline side.
Yeah, so we have these external pressures that are coming in against us, like supply chain challenges and inflationary prices, and things accelerating in the industry creates a real challenge and a demand for services, that exists. A few other areas that I've talked to people about as well is that I had the distinct opportunity, to have a conversation with Johan the other night, and it was with the discussion of your new launch of your freighter conversion program, your passenger to freighter conversion. And we see in the industry that freighter operations are dramatically increasing, executive jet operations are dramatically increasing. And then as you were talking about returning to service, we haven't seen a full recovery of international service yet, but we definitely have seen an exceeding demand more than before the pandemic of the domestic travel at this point. And it seems like you're very uniquely positioned to address all three of those elements.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Mark, that you say that, because when we think about the cargo market, we have never, ever been in the cargo industry. And normally when you think of passenger freighter conversion, you think of an older aircraft that's being converted, and we're taking brand new aircraft.
Not an E-jet.
Yeah, not an E-jet, But quite frankly, the E-jet has the right capacity to get in and out of markets that other airplanes can't get into in a very efficient manner. We're really proud of this passenger freighter conversion. It's going to be a great looking aircraft that already produces such good numbers for the industry, but we've got to address that demand. We talked about it before, and pent up demand is all over the place, whether that's for travel or needs of goods and things like that. Our friends at Amazon are really pushing things out a lot faster today, and they need to get the smaller markets that we can really take those products to. But we do see a lot of this pent-up demand from whether it's executive, commercial, or defense. Our commercial teams are really looking at these airplanes and saying, oh my gosh, if you want to fly them more, well, we got to get them into maintenance quicker, and we got to get them through maintenance faster and get them out on the fleet. While our executive customers are finding a new way to fly their company, their personal airplanes, and those are putting more cycles, more flight hours on the airplanes, and our walls are just having to need to expand. We're seeing so many airplanes come into us that we're looking at new opportunities through building, through mergers and acquisitions. What do we do next? And that's where we're going through the process as a manufacturer today to look at all this demand that's out there. How do we really grasp it? What do we take advantage of in what's in front of us 5 years from now, 10 years from now? When we get beyond the pandemic, what's really going to happen? And that's the key, because if you go back and look and you take 2019 and look at 2020, everybody's throwing away 2020. Yeah. So you can't look at those numbers. So the question is are you above pre-pandemic? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
We are skyrocketing beyond pandemic.
Yeah, you really have a very demanding situation, because between those three sectors growing right now, we have the freighter section growing right now. We have this domestic regional, operation growing, and we have this demand. What was the third one that I was talking about? It was the freighter and the
passenger conversion. Sorry.
Okay. Anyway, so we're looking at these demands that you're faced with, though, and it's really causing things to stress your not stress. Let's just say it this way.
But it is a stress. I agree with you.
Okay.
It is a physical and mental stress on the employees, the environment, and everything that we're going through. I can tell you, yesterday I sat at an Aviation Week advisory committee meeting, and we were showing the top airlines, and there was amazingly that two of them had jumped almost 50% up higher in the ranking, and it was Alaska and Allegiant that had jumped up, or JetBlue, I apologize. And my question was, why these two airlines? And it's exactly what you said. First of all, they're Embraer operators, so we're happy for that.
Good.
But second of all, it's because of all the domestic movement that we have.
Demand.
And you look at all these long-range airplanes like 777s that that a major airline might be flying, and they've moved so far back that their flight cycles and flight hours have dropped off. And you see all these domestic carriers moving up in the ranking. And it was those two that I specifically called out. And I looked at, one was 14, and last year it was 26. So it jumped up half of its distance all the way to mid-range. And it was because of that domestic travel that's coming back. International travel slowly moving, but domestic travel, it's pent up. People have been in the house, lived in their house. I've been in hangars all the time. You want to get out, right? So all that domestic travel, and Embraer is really set to be there with our fleet of aircraft.
The aircraft and the mission that your aircraft have fit right into that market space.
Absolutely.
And so that obviously has placed a big demand on the need for maintenance services. And I've personally been to your facilities. At least I've been to the one in Nashville, and I've seen a tremendous amount of efficiency. Just from a few years ago, you guys have applied process and technology and things in those facilities to really create a tremendous amount of efficiency and predictability of being able to deliver the airplane, and really managing the cost of the operations in those places. And so, it really seems like that's something that you have placed focus on and tried to not only just grow, to new locations like you have, but also create significant efficiencies and predictability and quality out of the operations that you have.
Well, it all starts with our leadership. As our new CEO, not so new anymore, but he really came into the organization and said, let's create lean processes. Let's do Kaizens. Let's figure out where the efficiencies are. And every time we go to him and ask for something new, he says, what have you done in your procedure to make it more efficient and more Kaizen events in order to run it? So we've really changed culture at the OEM, where before it was very much, let's do everything and anything. We've kind of streamlined it down and said, what really requires focus? The other thing that you brought up was, what do we do at our different facilities, is the fact that we're learning, we're Yokataning things from one facility to the next facility, and really learning the processes and making sure those procedures are effective wherever we are.
Yeah. We
want that customer to come in and say, wherever I go to you, I want to have the same process, the same procedure, and we look at each check and say, how do we take the data? This goes back to what I was talking about before, is mountains of data, and conceptualize it by turning it into theoretical processes, and then really kind of backdriving that all through theory and concept and going, okay, it works. Let's change what we're doing today.
A really consistent experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We're standing here in the MRO Americas, and there's many different options that people have in having their airplanes maintained. I mean, they can come to you.
Sure.
They can go to others. I have a question for you. Is it, why would someone choose the manufacturer over maybe one of the other MROs that exist out there?
Yeah, and it's a very good question. And what we want people to understand is that Embraer is an OEM that is dedicated to two things above all: safety and quality. Those things, safety first, quality always. And that can be repeated on a regular basis when you come to us with your airplanes. We take those airplanes and we crunch the data and tell the customer, well, you should do this because it would benefit your airplane. We've learned collectively what we've done with other airplanes in order to make the individual airplane a better airplane. So safety, quality, paramount for us. But we also see, as an OEM, we are the experts. We understand your airplanes. We want to make sure that you're able to bring your airplanes to somebody that can turn your airplane fast, but with the best quality whatsoever.
And predictable delivery.
Absolutely.
I actually saw one of your customers come back to you one time and say, you got to stop delivering the airplanes early. We can't get them into the schedule in time. And then what they did was they replanned their network and they put an entire airplane into their network because you had shortened the schedule, the maintenance schedule on the aircraft you were delivering for them.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and that's exactly what we want. We measure our days of return to customer throughout our entire network. So how many times have we returned an airplane early? How many times? And we do have customers that come and say, I can't come pick up my airplane today. And we put it out on the ramp, and we'll say, we'll take care of it until you're ready. Can you bring the next one? You know, we're ready to go, So it's really good that our teams, especially in Nashville, Tennessee, and Macon, Georgia, have done such a great job. And as you can see here, 20 years of service.
Yeah.
I mean, this is excellent for these folks.
Also, Nashville is 20 years now?
Yeah, absolutely, right?
Fantastic.
Yeah, so we're really happy for our employees to drive this home and really give our customers the days back.
Yeah, that's great. You guys are really doing a great job. Hey, listen, I can't leave this conversation without asking you about technology. I'm all about digital and the implementation of digital technology and finding ways to be able to create efficiency in operations, just like yours, because I firmly believe that when we have all these demands on us, that we have to find ways to operate more cost effectively and more efficiently. And so you have quite a significant, digital display about things that you're doing here. But can you tell me about any digital initiatives that you might have going on at the company right now?
Sure. Our biggest initiative right now is paperless. The aviation industry is very big on paper. Our regulators want a dirty fingerprint copy, and it's called dirty fingerprint because the mechanic is putting his or her hands on it. So we're going to iPads. We're using that device in order to reduce our printouts. We actually, in one of our facilities, we've been able to save over $1 million a year in simply printing out technology, or printing out and changing technology. So we're handing over that. The cost of investment is minuscule, reverse to return on investment.
Yep.
So,
well, I'm really glad to hear that because I've seen a very large number of facilities all around the world the last few years, and to my dismay, there's so many of them that are still using paper that I'd like to see more and more of that being accelerated. So I'm really glad that you're doing that and your commitment to doing that. Yeah. But most of all, I just really appreciate the contribution that Embraer has to the industry with the aircraft that you operate, your commitment to safety and quality, and really just the way that you present yourselves with such an efficient operation, because it really is a model for others to look at and to try to model themselves after that. So
thank you very much.
You guys are really doing a good job. Hey, listen, thanks for this conversation today. It's been really insightful. I hope those of you watching felt like you got some good information. If you're here at the MRO Americas and you haven't come by and visited Embraer yet, come by and visit Embraer. And if people want to reach out to you or to somebody else, what's the best way to contact somebody at Embraer?
So if you're here at the show, come by, see our wonderful booth. We have a huge display. You can see it from anywhere in the facility.
The big blue display.
Yeah, exactly. And you get to see an eVTOL take off and land while you're here. But the best thing is www.embraer.com is to chase us down, and we have service center information in there, my contact information, and is always available, and we're ready to support.
Perfect. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And Frank, thanks for the conversation today. I really appreciate it. Hey, guys, we have a few more interviews happening today and some tomorrow. Join us, and I hope that the things you've been hearing and seeing here at the show have been beneficial and be able to help you to be successful in your business. Bye for now.